Welcome. This is not the angle I thought I was going to be on. Sorry. Welcome to Talking Jets. My name's Ryan, and I'll be your pilot tonight. I'm joined alongside my lovely co-pilot, Mr. Dom C. Dom, how you doing tonight?
I'm well, Ryan. Nice to see you, my friend. Missed you last week. That was on me.
No, it is totally all right. Understand the whole kid thing. That's why I'm running a little bit late. Had to take care of a little bedtime. But I'm excited to chop it up. Let's hop right into it without further ado. The New York Jets beat the Atlanta Falcons. The Jeff Ulbrich-led Atlanta Falcons 24-27 on a last-second 56-yard field goal by one Nick Folk hero. What are your thoughts on the game?
I was cold. It was cold there, man. It was brutally cold, and I'm covered. The seats I get are now they're not my season tickets any longer, but they're in the same exact section. It just happens to be that way. They're actually 2 rows closer than my seat, but just covered. So no rain on me. The problem is you've been in that stadium.
Yep.
Wind goes this way. Wind goes that way. So the mist and all that stuff really gets you. It was cold yesterday. So a lot of good things came out of the game yesterday for sure. One I think was the welcome to life party of one 𝐂𝐿 Mitchell, right? Eight receptions, over 100 yards and in a long touchdown, aided by a nice Tyrod Taylor throw and a very fortunate trip by the cornerback. But a good game nonetheless. I think that there was bits and pieces of the defense that I thought played well at certain times, really under the radar. I know he didn't have a sack or anything like that, but I thought Will McDonald had a really good game. He made a lot of smart, heady plays. I thought he was effective versus the run, which is something that you're happy to see him. Oh, that was sorry, Ryan, I got distracted, but they just leveled Jackson Dart with a shoulder right to the head after he just got out of concussion protocol. Man, yeah, his helmet was knocked sideways. Anyhow, I thought Will McDonald played really well against the run. A lot of smart plays. He broke up a swing pass, a screen pass in the backfield on a big third down. I thought the offensive line really played well again. I know everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, Membu had a bad game." Yeah, he had a couple false start penalties. Shit's gonna happen. He's a rookie. He's the least of the worries. I thought that Fashanu was wonderful. I thought Tippmann was wonderful. Here's the hit.
I just watched it.
Yeah, it's not as bad in slow motion as it was in real time, but I digress. I thought Tippmann was really good. And I think, if nothing more, like during this let's see what we got period that the Jets season has turned into in 2025, I think we have seen that Joe Tippmann is a really, really good guard. He is a really, really good guard. Much better than a center. And I'm not saying he was bad center, but I just think he's up here with a guard, and he's probably somewhere in league average as a center.
We've been saying that, and you've been saying it for a long time. Like, he's better
since he came out.
Yeah,
since he came out.
The minute he goes drafted, you're like, oh man, this would be a great guard selection too. And it's like, the last 2 years we've seen him play a little bit of guard, and it's like, all right, this kid can actually play really, really well. I've loved this whole this 5-man rotation we have on the offensive line. I mean, this was probably Membu's worst game so far, just because he had the 2 penalties. But like, even still, like, very impressed overall with the tackles, with the young offensive linemen. Overall, I have very much liked what we've gotten out of the New York Jets. And I get, like, a lot of this is like a little fluky because of the special teams. We've had, kick return, punt return for touchdown and back-to-back plays. We've had a muffed punt that we recovered that created a short touchdown. You have the last second field goal. You have the long return by Isaiah Williams. Like, it's hard to duplicate that level of special team success year over year. But at the same time, for all the fans that are maybe complaining about that, like, we have like 2 turnovers on the entire season. Like that is an astronomically wild thing to have happen. Not to mention if we have a halfway competent quarterback, we're probably winning more games. Like I don't particularly see us as one of the top 2 or 3 worst teams in the league. Like when I look at like the Raiders or if I look at, the Titans, those teams clearly look bad. And like we're probably in that 4 to like 8 range. And now right now the Jets are currently slated to pick 7th. I think it'll probably shift a little bit. I think we get 1 additional win, but we'll probably be somewhere in that, 4 to 7-ish range.
You think it'll be that? Yeah. I mean, listen, I guess 4 to 7. You're talking about 4 to 7 in the draft order, not 4 to 7 wins.
Correct.
We're not getting 7 wins.
No. I think I've been saying 4 for a while. I'm feeling a little bit more bullish where I might say 5. Like we might get the Miami game and the Saints game. I think that's entirely possible. I'd love to play spoiler for one of Jacksonville or the Patriots or the Bills. Obviously, I'm not expecting a win in either of those games, but like I've reserved myself to like the point where it's like, all right, we're either trading up for a quarterback, we're going to sit tight and hope a quarterback falls, or we're just going to wait on quarterback till either the end of the first, beginning of the second, or even next year, or potentially both, of that latter option. I'm really not stressed about the top end of the draft and where we are picking. Like obviously towards the end of that game, would I have liked to have seen the Jets fall a little bit short and get the loss? Sure. I honestly, I would, but I'm not like losing any sleep over this.
Yeah. I'm with you. I wanted the outcome of the loss that, more so like I went into it saying, hey, listen, let's, just like Baltimore game, play pretty competitive, find out that you're just not as talented enough, let them kind of, walk away with the victory. We walk away with, good situation, blah, blah, blah. So that's what I was hoping for. But I think you're right, man. There's nothing to worry about right now. You can control, as a fan, we can only control what we can. Like, I don't think the season or the draft is doomed because we won this week. There's still 4 weeks left. There's still teams that are above each other that we play that are playing each other, so on and so forth. So everything's gonna still, everything's still really fluid. Plus, like I've had this conversation now with a couple of people. Remember at this time last year, beginning of December last year, Shedeur Sanders was the number locked in as the number 2 pick overall. It was going to be quarterback, right? We don't know what the heck's going to happen between now and April. We just don't. We don't know which of these quarterbacks are declaring. Which you don't know which. What if Mendoza comes out Saturday against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game and just has an absolute stinker? He's going to be off everyone's radar, and he might just be sitting there when we pick at 6 or 7. That would be my best case scenario. What if Dante Moore decides to come out and Archman decides to come out and it pushes some of these quarterbacks down? You don't know what's going to happen. You just don't. So there's no sense in getting all like you don't have to be get all twisted up about it.
People get a little too doom and gloom. I've certainly been there. I have been the like, oh, hey, I want this pick. I want that pick. Right now, I think because of the ammo that the Jets have, we can dictate which quarterback we really want to get over these next 2 years. And that puts us in a nice, advantageous situation, whether you want to sit back this year. I love the idea of sitting back this year. Now that we're kind of, I think it's going to be in that 4 to 6 range, somewhere in that pick selection. It's entirely possible quarterback falls to us. It's entirely possible that it doesn't. Like, now we get the conversation of, do you go defense early on? Do you try to, maybe stack the receiver position? We're going to get into the A.D. Mitchell conversation in just a minute here. But there's going to be a lot of different ways that things can kind of shake out. And I'm really okay with a lot of them. There's a lot of different things here. Before we get too far into this, I want to say thank you to Eric. Thank you so much for the 20 spots. Says, Joe Bedingo said on his podcast, Jets are 18-5 when Brees scores a touchdown. WTF. Thanks, AD, for the great touchdown catch. We'll let you wear Mendoza's number another week. When Brees scores a touchdown, I mean, obviously it means we're scoring points, but like, I don't know if it's inherently like just on Brees for that outcome to work out that way. I think, it could have just as easily been Tyrod Taylor scrambling in 2 yards for the touchdown. But Yeah, look, when the Jets score points, Jets have a better shot at winning. That's what I take away from this particular stat line. A.D. Mitchell, really nice catch, nice coming out party for him. I hope he keeps it up. And of course, the Mendoza thing is pretty funny there. Blitz Crew comes in, says, if no quarterback is available in the draft, who's our offensive line pick? So, Blitz, let's get back to your question in just a second. I love that your name pops back up as Blitz Crew. I don't know how that how you switch that, but it's cool. It was coming up as your other name for a little bit there, but I'll come back to that in just a second. Let's pop over to Eric's pseudo question here. Talk about A.D. Mitchell. Dom, do you think A.D. Mitchell could be wide receiver?
Wait, there's a huge fight going on right now in the Giants game, Ryan. I don't know if you're watching this at all.
I'm like 30 seconds behind, so I'm gonna see it.
Shit.
But right now I'm seeing the back of Johnson right now, and it's probably the play.
You're really far behind. You're really far behind.
I'm like 40. I think I'm 45 seconds is the actual number here.
Yeah, just watch this play come out, and then so ask your question, and I'll answer it while you watch this happen.
A.D. Mitchell, wide receiver 2 next year.
I think there's a fair. Listen, you know, when you say wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, I think that he's
he got clocked.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this.
He did. It's a legal hit too.
Great legal hit. I love the giant guy defending his quarterback though. Like no issues with that whatsoever. You're a 2-win team. Whew. Yo, he got taken the fuck out. That was a big time hit. All right.
So, sorry guys, but that happened in real time. I just couldn't. What was I saying now?
A.D. Mitchell.
I don't know if he's wide receiver 2. Well, maybe he's wide receiver 2. Like he starts in 2 receiver sets, but I don't know if he's the second option. I'll say that. Is that like is wide receiver 2? I don't know if he's a second offensive option. I think that it'd still be Garrett and then some combination of Brees or the tight end before you get the next next wide receiver in terms of offensive options. But yeah, I see no reason why he can't start. I mean, listen, he's the prototypical X that you want, that offers you the ability, because Garrett's been playing a lot of X, a lot of boundary receiver. He's not really a boundary receiver. You want him to kind of be able to be movable. Like I still think that he is best suited to play in the slot where he gets 2-way breaks on everything and all that stuff. I think that that's where Garrett would be doing best. So A.D. Mitchell playing the boundary, can kind of take the top off of defense, can still separate when asked to, when we needed to, on those slant routes and stuff like that. Like I think it's a perfect complement to Garrett Wilson, and then you want to add a receiver in the draft. If it's this year or if it's next year, you can do that. I think it still gives you that freedom to do so. So I will say, to answer your question, yes, I think there's a good possibility that A.D. Mitchell starts opposite Garrett Wilson at wide receiver next year.
So I guess I want to pivot the question slightly, because I thought you'd go a slightly different direction here. But do you think the Jets are going to select a wide receiver high? Like, do you think it's a first round need now?
So I have thought about this, and I've talked this out a lot. Mm-hmm. I think there's a possibility that I think there's 2 scenarios, right? Mm-hmm. I think there's the scenario that says, hey, we missed on the quarterback with our top 10. I'll just say top 10 pick. Mm-hmm. We missed on the quarterback with a top 10 pick. Let's go ahead and take the best available here. Mm-hmm. And there are, like, I'm writing an article, like the little selfish plug here for Jets X Factor that'll totally be put out this week, and where I talk through a scenario, a Jets draft scenario where all 3 of the big 3 are off the board before the Jets pick. Because it could happen. It's not an unrealistic issue, but I don't think it's a matter. My point is, I don't think it's a reason to panic. But in that situation, I had us go in BPA, and the BPA happened to be a wide receiver, right? So in that situation, you lock up a wide receiver, and then you have your top 3 wide receivers in, wherever they line up with rookie, Garrett Wilson, and AD Mitchell. And I think you're gold, right? There's also situations where I don't touch I think you can make an argument that you don't touch a wide receiver, right? Especially with a first round pick, because you're already paying Garrett, right? So if you want to take some stabs down the road with one of your 2s or your, a day 3 guy, and just build some depth that way, that you run with Garrett and AD Mitchell and some combination of Arian Smith and John Mechie as your top 3 guys with rookie as your 4. You can do that as well. And that gives you the opportunity to wait until 2027 when you have 3 first rounders and the wide receiver class is as good as we'll ever see it. There's 3 guys that potentially coming out in 2027 that would be the instant 1 first pick overall in this class. And this is a good wide receiver class too that we're talking about here with Carnell Lake and the kid Mekhi Lemon and Jordan Tyson, so on and so forth. It's a good top end wide receiver class, and next year's class is going to blow them out of the water. So there's an argument to be made. You want to wait until next year and take your wide receiver, take your high end wide receiver in 2027. That's fine. That's the thing. The Jets have so many different ways and so many different necessarily holes that they're going to have to fill. They have over 30 expiring contracts. They're going to have to fill these things. So for me, I'm all on board. And I know if anyone here, I'm not copying this, but I know Will Parkinson was on Jake's show this afternoon, and he kind of led off with something very similar where I want to draft offense and I want to use free agency and trades to fill in the defense, right? Like go get me guys like Leo Chenal. Go get me the best, go get me Kirby Joseph, the safety from the Lions. Maybe you can jostle him free. Pay the big money, fill in the defense with those proven vets, and go draft your offense. Get me wide receivers and quarterbacks and running backs and all that good stuff. I love that. So.
Dude, my mindset since the win has kind of shifted slightly. I agree with you. You could go wide receiver early if there are players you don't like. I find myself like gravitating towards like linebacker or edge rusher or something early on now if the quarterback's not the selection. It's just beautiful. You could really go any number of ways here. And then with the second round picks, like you could do something like what the Giants did, where you take the best player available at the top end of the first, then back end of the first, maybe you want to, snag a quarterback, or top end of the second, you want to snag a quarterback, because that doesn't necessarily prevent you from going quarterback in 27 if you find yourself in a great spot.
Absolutely right. I think only taking a quarterback in the top 6 or 7, if you use your first pick overall in 26 quarterback, I think that's the only thing that might preclude you from taking a quarterback in 2027 if you so feel it necessary, or if there's one that you like on the board.
Yeah, I think in my perfect realm, I would even rather go like the second round wide receiver and try to get a first round 5th year option at another position of need, just because it's one like a little bit less of a I guess financial, I don't want to call it a financial burden or something, but you get what I'm saying. I like if you get to year 4 and you're like, okay, we got to figure out our quarterback. We haven't re-signed him to his long-term deal yet. Like you've got the franchise tag as your option. Like there's other ways to do it. So I'm not terribly concerned about the 5th year option in this particular instance. I'm curious to see which way they end up going. There's really a whole lot. I like a lot of the guys that could be there at the back end of the second. Eric, I'm going to get to your comment in just a second. I just want to follow back up with Blitz Crew. He says, if no quarterback is available in the draft, who's our offensive lineman pick? Do you think
that's a little tongue in cheek?
I think it's a little tongue in cheek. But like, do you think there's any position other than wide receiver at the top end of this draft, other than no quarterback, no wide receiver? What would you say is that next area of need that you would love to like maybe put a premium asset into this early on, assuming no trade down or something like that?
For the Jets,
is Caleb Downs like on your radar?
I mean, I think Caleb Downs is a legit top 5 player in this class overall. Probably not on my radar in the top 10 because I just don't know how valuable. I don't know if I personally value a safety that high, and I like safeties, right? I think for me, it's still I'm still going to lean towards an edge rusher because I think you can never have enough of those. And the more edge rushers that we have on the field, the less we see Michael Clemens, in a Jets uniform. So that would make me happy. So I would probably say edge rusher. I would probably say, I know this is crazy because we just spent a top 40 pick on one last year. But I would probably say tight end as well. Like if there's an opportunity to go get you 𝐀𝐟𝐟𝐢𝐥𝐢𝐴 from Oregon, who is head and shoulders the best tight end in this class, I would do that, man. I would do that, and he would complement what Mason Taylor is so good as well.
We got Eric coming in. Eric wants to know, what are your thoughts on FSU wide receiver Deuce Robinson? Latest scuttlebutt has him leaning towards entering the draft. If he does come out, what round do you think he might be available? He's 6'6", or 6'6", is pretty good size. I'll be honest, I have not watched a lick of him. Like you mentioned, 6'6", 223 is what he's listed at. Let's see if I can.
I'm pulling up my notes. I'm pulling up my notes right now.
Yeah, here's the.
I don't have a full write up on him. Like I said, this year, Ryan, I have. Hang on one second, okay?
Yeah, sorry, it's all good. So this is where his stats are currently. He's a USC transfer. So let me just move Eric's comment out of the way real quick. He was at Florida State this year. The last 2 years, 396 in receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. Year before that, 352 yards, 2 touchdowns. So really popped off this year with the 56 receptions, just over 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. So Dom, can you provide any insight into Deuce Robinson?
Yeah. Listen, I have very limited notes on him. Like I said, I haven't. He's 43rd on my list. I have him flagged as returning. So and Ryan, you have access to my guide.
Yep.
I do, like, for the guys that have returning. I don't necessarily go too far in depth with them, right? Until I know that they're coming out, and then I'll go. Physical specimen. That's what I have written down for him. I have physical specimen, a mismatch nightmare, red zone threat. All these, all these that bode well for prototypical X receivers. So I don't really have all that much on Deuce. I haven't watched him. I haven't watched a lot of Florida State. I haven't watched him per se more than a handful of games. So interesting name. Interesting build for sure.
I'm trying to let's see. Did you send a new draft prospect guide, or is it a tab on an old one? It's gonna pull it up.
It's a new one. I'll send it to you after the show. It's fine.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I'm sure I can look through my email. I don't have it saved in my sheets right now. I want to take a look at the top end of the draft. This is currently where the Jets are sitting. We're sitting at 7, just behind Washington. Cleveland and I believe it's the Titans play each other. The Saints and the Titans play each other. The Giants play. Is it the Browns? I feel like the Giants play.
Did they play Washington too? I mean, I know they played them once already. Did they play them twice already? Did they play them again?
I don't know offhand.
The Jets
there's a lot of games
play
between
New
all
Orleans.
the guys. Yeah, there's a lot of movement in the top part of this draft here that could happen. Jets wind up winning another game. You're talking about falling down to like the 11 pick, depending on how everything else shakes out.
It's crazy too, because 4 wins last year, the Giants ended up with Abdul Carter, number 3 overall. 4 wins this year, we could be picking 12.
That would really be a kick in the pants. Like, I don't know what I necessarily think if we fall that far. Like, in my mind's eye, 7 is about as far as I saw us falling. And obviously, things are going to happen. Other teams are going to win, by virtue of just playing one another. But let's take a look at the big board for right here. And then I could look at another area of rankings as well. We don't have to just go through Tankathon. But let's say the Jets are sitting at pick 7, and I should kind of got to go through the mock draft side of things.
Well, here I'll do this.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I have an article that I'm in the process of writing for Jet X Factor, which will be up www.jetsxfactor.com later this week. But I kind of walk through a scenario where I did a mock draft per se for the Jets for the first 2 rounds. That's all that really mattered.
Yeah.
In which the quarterbacks were not available, right? So I had the Saints trade up to number 1, and they took Dante Moore.
Okay.
I had Cleveland trade up to number 3, and they took Fernando Mendoza. And I had the Rams trade up to number 4, and they took Ty Simpson.
Oh, okay. I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense.
And then when you take the 3 quarterbacks out of the equation, Arvell Reese and Reuben Bain Jr. are definitely going to go there. And then I also had Spencer Fano, the tackle from Utah, go in the top, in the top 6. So that left the Jets with their choice of any wide receiver they wanted, or Peter Woods, defensive tackle, if they wanted to go that way, or Caleb Downs, so on and so forth. And I kind of leaned towards the wide receiver in that sense. And I took Carnell Tate from Ohio State, which is arguably the best wide receiver in the class. Everyone's going to have their opinion. There's 3 really good ones. Doesn't matter who you have, 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, in the little bit I've watched of the different guys, you could be pretty excited for any one of them. I do like Tate a lot, actually.
Listen, I just think Ohio State receivers separate their separation skills and their ball skills. They come into the league ready, right? They come into the league and they can produce right away. I think Jordan Tyson might be the best skilled wide receiver overall. There's some injury flags with him for sure that scare me. But I think he's the alpha. He has the chance to be the Justin Jefferson of this draft class. And then Mekhi Lemon, I don't want to like him, but all the guy does is catch balls and make plays. Like, he's somebody called him Steve Smith. I think he's more Amon-Ra St. Brown, where he's not going to wow you with his speed, but that where he's going to be slot specific guy, but he's not going to be like a Hunter Renfrow slot specific. He's going to be a slot guy that can play physical, that can beat you vertically, that can do a lot of things. That's going to catch everything you throw at him, like Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Ghost Rider comes in, says, Ryan, salute. Jets wind up with the 11 pick. Who would you want them to draft?
Oof.
That would be a tough ask. I mean, receiver is still high on my list. Like, obviously, in this particular mock right now, they have Carnell Tate at 14. They have Jordan Tyson at 7 to the Jets. I would lean that direction. You mentioned edge earlier. Edge is another one that I think is a very big need. I think there's a gap that we're trying to kind of fill from like what Will McDonald is and where JJ is, like just one extra compliment on that defensive line. I don't particularly want to go defensive tackle, I'll be honest. I think cornerback's probably not a first round need either.
Yeah, and based on the fact that the Glenn defensive scheme is very much read and react for the defensive linemen. And to read and react, you got to be able to kind of stand your ground, keep guys off of you, anchor down really hard, 2 gap. I don't think he's going to spend high capital on a defensive tackle either. He's, listen, he just traded Quinn Williams, who's arguably a top 5 defensive tackle in the league, and said, we'll do it with Juwan Briggs, a former 7th round pick, and old man Harrison Phillips. We're good.
Is there any situation, I hate to ask it because it's not a direction I particularly want to go. The Lions traded up to get Jahmyr Gibbs. Is there any shot the Jets, with Breece in a contract year, looking at Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame because of all the picks we have? Any situation you see to come away with that?
You know what? I guess it'll depend on what happens with Breece, but I'd probably say no. I don't know if it would make sense. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I'll say that much, especially since you have 2 firsts and 2 seconds. You can you can choose to take luxury picks. However, I don't know if that's the right concept in team building.
I agree. I'm very.
I
much
don't know if it's the right. I think a running back is probably more of a finishing piece than it is a starter.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't think that this offense is far from finished. You know, Christ, you don't know who the quarterback is. You don't know what your interior of the offensive line is going to look like. Although I'm not spending a first round pick on that either. You don't. I mean, we saw what this wide receiver room looked like. You have one tight end under contract next year. You know, there's a lot of things that need to be hammered out before you go and take a, top 11 running back.
I would absolutely agree with this. When I look at where things go, they have the Jets going corner. I don't see
them.
Yeah, I don't see us going corner in the first round. Honestly, the first 2 rounds, I don't see it. I like Sonny Styles out of Ohio State a lot.
Yes, me too.
That would be a great pick back end of the first. Up top, I really like Reese a lot. When you get into the second round, they have the Jets going Lenore Sellers. If he comes out and you want to take a swing at him in the second round, I got no issues with that whatsoever.
Yeah, once you're to that 20-something pick, man, I don't care. I don't care. Whichever quarterback you think is best, you take. I don't care who it is, because it doesn't preclude you from going next year. Now, a lot of people are not going to like Sellers. I'll tell you that much. A lot of people are not going to like Sellers. Sellers right now, as constituted, is the closest thing to Justin Fields that I've seen in the college game.
That's terrifying.
Not bueno. Now, there are some stuff that makes you still jaw drop when you watch Sellers, because it's the traits and the talent is just so undeniable. But the process and the decision making is just so elementary that I'm scarred. Justin Fields has scarred me for life.
The quarterback that was taken just behind us in this particular mock, John Mateer, I've been saying it for weeks. This is the guy that I got a little bit of a heartthrob for. If we're going to take a dart throw at someone in the second round, that's the guy I would really like to see us come away with. Again, really low floor, could wind up, just being a perennial backup or something like that. But
correct.
I think that would be a fun selection.
I actually think that both of those guys go back to school.
Yeah, we've talked about this. Those two at Mateer, you think, are probably going back.
Those two and more, I think, are going to go back to school. Although, things are getting interesting with Moore because his offensive coordinator just left today and was named the head coach of Kentucky. So maybe that has something to do. If he's guaranteed, what is the top 5 pick? I think Moore has the best chance if he comes out to go 1-1. To be the first overall pick, and what is that? 5 years guaranteed at what? $70 million.
Let's see. Just for instance, Cam Ward picked number 1 overall, got $48 million fully guaranteed. That does not include the 5th-year option. So you're talking, call it $40 to $50 million for a top 5 pick, and
you're talking $10 to $12 million a year. Yeah. You're not getting that. You're not getting that in NIL deal. The highest Arch Manning got $6 million is the highest NIL deal.
Yeah,
and that's for 1 year. NIL for 1 year, that's $70 million roughly guaranteed for 5.
Not to mention when he starts talking with other people and they're like, "Hey, you guys saw what happened to LR? It's not worth giving up $50 million to possibly win a national championship. I'm sorry, I'm coming out every single day." I see Cuddy in the chat. Cuddy says, "What would Dom say are the deepest positions in this draft?"
Positional groups that I think are deep. I think the edge group is pretty deep. I think the wide receiver is probably the deepest. I think the edge group has, I'd say about 9 or 10. No, I'd probably even more. Maybe about a dozen guys that I think you can see. A dozen, maybe 15 guys that can go on days 1 or 2. That's a deep class in my opinion. I think that the wide receivers, I told you, I think that the linebackers are probably the deepest. For what we're working with. We haven't seen linebackers be drafted high at all in recent years. I think you can see, a good 5 or 6 of them drafted in the first 2 rounds. I think you could see a good 10 of them drafted in the first 2 days, rounds 1, 2, or 3. I think that's a really good group. And I think the corners, although it falls off quick, I think there's a lot of higher end talent as well. But overall, probably the wide receivers or probably the wide receivers, the edge rushers, I think, are the 2 deepest positions. I like the quarterbacks. I know everyone's going to say it's a weak quarterback class. I don't think that. I think it's a very weak tackle class. I think it's an offensive tackle. I think it's a very weak. I should say defensive tackle is very good too. I think it's a very weak offensive tackle class. I think it's a very weak tight end class comparatively to what we've seen over the past couple of years.
So does the depth of those particular position groups influence your decision making on what you do, say, in the second round? Because, I mean, I think a lot of Jet fans are probably going to operate this draft through like, okay, let's hit on our top 4 picks. Like, what are we going to do with our top 4 picks? Because obviously we don't have a third, and there's a lot of loose change at the back end of this draft. Because edge and receiver could be seen as a deeper position group, does that maybe steer your thought process to like back end of the first, top of the second for those groups, and then maybe try to hit something that, maybe a lesser deep position at the top?
Yeah. So that's the way my mind usually works. Like I said, I think that this is a tight end class of 1. So for me, I'd be willing to spend a first round pick on a non-premium position like tight end, more so this year than in the other years, because you're not going to probably get anybody that's really startable without that has starter capabilities within their first 2 or 3 years outside of him. Some people are going to say the kid 𝐀𝐟𝐼𝐿 from Ohio State. I wasn't fully impressed. There's a kid from Baylor, Trigg, who's just named to just accepted his invite to the Senior Bowl. Can't wait to see him there. He's a really, he's a really big, tall target, more of your receiving type. He's a little bit older at 24. So, excuse me, I don't know if he's going to go in the first couple of rounds. I would probably lean towards taking a position of that I deem non-premium with one of those 4 picks, where normally I'd say days 1 and day 2, I want all premium selections. Give me wide receiver, quarterbacks, wide receivers, offensive tackles, defensive ends, all day long. So
NYJ8196 says, can the USC quarterback drop to the second round? In this particular
Jaden 𝐀𝐟𝐼𝐿. Yes, he can. If he comes out. Again, he's another guy that has eligibility. That's the thing. Like, we don't know what's going to happen with this quarterback class really until January 15th when they all declare. Jaden 𝐀𝐟𝐼𝐿 is a guy that, I wouldn't be shocked at all if somebody gave him the Jackson Dart treatment and, traded back into the end of round 1 for him. The physical traits are there. The arm talent is there. The size, the movement ability is there. I love his pocket presence, and the way he keeps his eyes downfield and moves around the pocket. I don't think he's the best quarterback yet. You know what I mean? Accuracy wise, you'll see his numbers are pretty good. A lot of checkdowns. I don't think he makes the best decisions. I think he makes the safest decisions at time. And there'll be games where he just has clunkers. He's a work in progress, to say the least. But the Jackson Dart was too. It's working out pretty well for him. So yes, and NYJ, what is that?
8196.
8196. That is the case. I think he can drop to the second round.
Cameron, I see in here, says, are we calling in? I'm not going to do call-ins tonight. Dom, you want to hang with me till 9:30?
Yeah, whenever you want. I'm good.
All right. Real quick, I do want to just acknowledge the sponsor of the channel. Just give me 1 minute. I'll get right back to Dom. Boys and girls, if you have not done so already, where is my button here? Boom. Let's get the final score off the screen. Sleeper has been kind enough to sponsor the channel. These were my picks from yesterday. Clearly, Kirk Cousins wound up going over on that, and then Mechie did not hit the over on the receiving yard. So I didn't win any money, but I put $10 down to potentially win. Let's see, what was it? It was 100 and, I think it was 100 something, 134. Didn't work out for you, boy Ryan. Think you know football? Then try to turn your football knowledge into real money with the Sleeper app, the ultimate fantasy sports app that can turn game day into payday. Just download the Sleeper app and pick more or less on your favorite players. With more stats than any other daily fantasy app, just choose 2 or more of your favorite players from pregame or live. Pick more or less from the predicted stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money if your picks win. Use promo code JETSTALK, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Thank you so much for sponsoring the channel. Dom.
Right.
Lots of questions that could be answered. And we got another one from Tampa Jets fan. It says, has Philly said hard no to trading Tanner Engstrand? Would you consider making an offer? Also, if Pitts is available, I think he's trying to say free agency, available in free agency. Why not him at tight end? I'll admit, like seeing him yesterday play, I made me feel like, oh yeah, Pitts, I'll draft him on my fantasy team. And I haven't been burned by that in the last 4 or 5 years. I'm definitely like you, open to adding another tight end. I think we do probably need that. I'm cool with bringing Ruckert back too. If he could be tight end 3, like that's totally fine with me. If he, has the dream of playing for his Jets, long term. I don't think he's going to get a relatively decent sized contract anywhere. So bringing him back here would be kind of nice. As far as Tanner McKee goes,
we've had this discussion.
We've talked about this a few times. Like, would you give up, a 2nd round pick for him? We don't have a 3rd round pick. Do you think you could get him for a 4th? Is that not high enough to be able to get him? And like, how do you weigh McKee and his NFL, like the time he spent in the NFL? Obviously not a whole lot of starting stuff, but he's been in the league a few years. How do you value that versus pulling a rookie in, maybe from the 2nd round and having the extra years of control? What's your thought process here?
So my thought process is this: I want to see what McKee's contract is first and foremost.
It's not a lot
up right now.
I think he's got 1
Well, I
year
mean, how long it is and stuff like that. I don't know.
So he's got 1 year remaining on his deal. It'll be $1.1 million if he's traded. So really,
for 1 year of control, I think you can get him for a 4th round pick. I absolutely do. I know that we've talked before, and I said, yeah, fuck it. I'd spend a second. You got 2 seconds, and I'd be willing to overpay if I thought he was the guy. I don't know if you'll have to do that with only 1 year control because, to me, I think that's the great option to bridge you, right? If we're all on the same kind of playing field and saying that Justin Fields ain't it and he ain't going to be back here next year, and you might have to eat his money and deal with that, and it is what it is. That was just not something that's going to work, not something that worked, not something that's going to work. I'm fine with it. For me, Tanner McKee would be a perfect guy to have in there, and with a rookie quarterback, whether it's a 1st round rookie, 2nd round rookie, later rookie, and just have him kind of bridge the way. I don't know if getting Tanner McKee would kind of prevent you from still taking a rookie quarterback early. I think you can have an honest and open competition for the job if you so choose. You could bring back Tyrod Taylor, and have Tyrod be your Jameis Winston. Have 3 viable quarterbacks, with quarterback 3 being the the OG, the unk of the room, and kind of helping guide the younger guys, through. So, if I had to choose, I guess maybe I'd say, if you miss out on the top 3, then Tanner McKee and a round 2 quarterback is the way I'd go.
Yeah, if you could get Tanner for a 4th, I think that's really exciting. You mentioned Tyrod Taylor. I like the idea of bringing him back. Obviously knows the offense. He's, the guys seem to, like him. He's making our receivers that we're hoping to see more out of. Like, this is just such a big asset for the Jets to be able to like grade out these wide receivers. Like, it would really suck to have Justin Fields. Like, as much as it's like, okay, yeah, we could tank a little bit with Justin Fields. Like, to know Mitchell and Mechie are like players, to know the offensive line can operate with the ball coming out on time, and that's still with a lot of meat left on the bones for the quarterback to improve upon. Like, we saw Tyrod Taylor running, bootlegging out to the left and not throwing the ball to Mason Taylor, on the goal line. There's a lot of opportunities for a good quarterback to come in here and have some success. I agree. I think McKee doesn't prevent you from drafting a quarterback in say the second round. I would think if you trade for him, you're probably, I would say, I don't want to say less likely to take a quarterback in the first, because I don't know if that's necessarily true either. Like, if Mendoza falls to you, it does seem like he would be the pick. What do you feel about Ty Simpson? Do you think Ty Simpson is coming out next year, or like what's your feel on him? Because it went from like, oh, he's definitely going to come out, to like, I'm not so confident anymore.
Well, I mean, he's had a couple games where he's kind of thrown up some stinkers, even though I don't think the Auburn game last week was all that terrible. Listen, he's pushing. He's going to turn 24 in his rookie year. He's getting to the point where he's just got to declare. He sat for 3 years. Him only, with playoffs and bowl games, you might only have a dozen starts from him, whatever. I don't know if I'd take him with a top 5 pick. I don't know if I'd take him with a top 10 pick, but if he was there at 22, do I think he'll be there at 22? No. But if he was there at 22, I'd happily grab him there. It's just, you better have a good plan. If your plan is Ty Simpson in the top 10, because the plan can't be you turn the reins over to him. We've seen what happens when you have quarterbacks with a dozen starts and you give them the keys to the Lamborghini.
Yeah, most quarterbacks in this league, I think, I gotta find the tweet from it, but I want to say there's like, of the 32 starting quarterbacks, you're probably considering 25 of them to be like the starter for their team, where they're not necessarily actively looking to move off of them, or they're at least like, testing out a rookie that's there. And like the vast majority of guys have a good amount of starts. And I forget the exact number. I don't think it was 30 starts, but it was like, it might be 25 plus starts or something like that throughout their college career. And the guys that don't were guys like Sam Darnold, guys like, who else was it? Like guys that just kind of struggled a little. I think CJ Stroud was another one of those that didn't have a crazy ton of starts in college and maybe dealing with some hiccups. So I would agree. Guys like Moore and Mendoza definitely give me a little bit of pause for concern, where I don't feel so compelled to just whatever the Giants just did right now is ridiculous.
I didn't see it yet. I kind of caught it. I just backed it up. I just rewound it.
Oh my God.
See what the hell happened.
I want to watch like the replay on this, because I feel completely perplexed.
Yeah. Ryan, I'll tell you this. I feel a little bit different about Moore. A little bit different about Moore than I do about Simpson. I rewound it too far. I'm at second down now.
Dude, I'm very confused if that was like an attempted fake, or like the kicker thought the kick was going to get blocked and he stopped. When you see it, you gotta like
I'm at third down
your thought process.
Third down and 10 now. So hang on 1 second.
Oh my God.
I rewound too fast.
I can't wait for you to get to this play. But yes, go on.
Yeah. I think, I think we talked about it. Mendoza's my number 1 quarterback in the class. Yeah. I know that seems to be a little contrarian to some these days. A lot of people have, for some reason, have worn off him, and that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinions and their own eyes or whatnot. I don't question if you have, any of those 3 in the top, at number 1 or number 2 or whatnot. That's fine. But I'm actually more of the belief that there's a better chance Dante Moore goes 1 overall than Mendoza. Even though I have Mendoza graded higher. All right, here's the kick. Let me see what the heck happens here. What the heck was that?
Right? It's very confusing. I don't know if his foot stuck or if he intentionally stopped. Like, it definitely didn't look like the holder was planning to pull that ball.
That's odd.
I see the chat going back and forth a little bit on the quarterbacks. Mendoza, to me,
he overplanted. He was never going to hit the ball. That's why he had to stop.
Oh, jeez. That's super bad. Mendoza, to me, I agree he's my top quarterback. I think the safety of the amount of starts he has, it seems like the processing power is there, the height is there, he's athletic enough to like be there. I totally get if someone doesn't want to trade up for him and you don't want to, I would say as we win more and more games and it becomes more financially, I don't want to say financially difficult, but burdensome maybe to go up and try to get him, I'm more than okay with just not doing that at that point.
Yeah. So I'm curious to the guys. I'm curious to the guys in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are saying, and now listen, I'm not defending them. I'm just curious on your opinions. Everyone seems to say Mendoza's overrated. Like, what's overrated about him?
I don't get it at all.
What is it that's overrated? The guy wins, man. He's got a set of stones like no other quarterback in this draft class, right? He steps up. He faces. He's done it with 2 colleges. He's I agree with Andrew. He's not flashy, but do you need to be flashy?
I think these playoffs are going to tell us a lot, particularly this game coming up. Obviously not the playoffs, but going up against Ohio State, how does he fend off that type of defense? How much do you hold that against him if he doesn't? Because Ohio State should be the runaway favorite to be the national champion. What's your thought process with how Mendoza could look this weekend, and how does that impact his draft stock? Like, obviously, I feel like if he has a good game, like, jettisons him to the top and no one questions it. But how does a bad game feature him?
Yeah, I think a bad game will drop him for, look at what's happened over the past 6 to 8 weeks, Ryan. It's been like, what have you done for me lately, right? Because early on, it was Mendoza, all Mendoza. And then, Indiana beat Oregon. And Mendoza played great, and Dante Moore didn't, and everyone forgot about Dante Moore. And it was Mendoza. And then until Simpson started coming on, and Simpson overtook Mendoza. And there were still some Mendoza riders, this, that, the other thing. And now it's kind of just, as Simpson has started to, some of his accuracy issues have, come to the surface. And, some of the turnover-worthy plays have really come to the surface. He showed, it's more so people are back on Dante Moore and the traits and his ability. I think that there's the whole floor and ceiling thing. Like, I understand what people mean by it. I think that Moore, it wouldn't surprise me. Like I said, I've said it 3 times now. If Moore is the first quarterback taken, he's younger. He's got he throws the ball so effortlessly. There's a lot to like about Dante Moore. It just needs a lot of refinement. Whereas what's his face, Mendoza, I think is much more refined, much more ready to play now. But are you looking at a finished product? Meaning, is what you have now all you're going to get from him? Which could be the case. The question is, and this is what every NFL team is going to have to ask each other. Or ask themselves, is what he's showcasing now enough for you? Because I think what he's showing now is enough to be a good quarterback in the NFL. I don't know if he's ever going to be the QB1 overall and he's going to throw for 50 touchdowns like Josh Allen and so on and so forth. No, but I think he's got high-end QB IQ, can get through his progressions, post reads, make those right decisions, not put the ball in harm's way, throws with anticipatory, precise, anticipation, throws catchable balls, everything. Like, he's He's just a solid quarterback. He's a solid B plus. And is a B plus good enough to take in the top 5? I'd say it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people don't. Some people want an A.
Ricky's asking Mensa, someone you've been pretty high on. Where do you think he ends up going?
I think he goes back to school. If he came out, I did grade Mensa before I knew that he signed a 2-year NIL deal with Duke. So I think that, I don't know if that, I mean, nothing's, guaranteed, but I think that's more than likely going to keep him there. But I have Mensa right up there. Mensa's, QB2 for me. If he was coming out, I like him a lot. I think he's another guy, effortless motion with his effortless thrower, just flicks the wrist and gets there. I think he's got one of the better deep balls in college football. I think he's got a big frame. I think he needs to gain some weight, eat a cheeseburger so he can take a little bit of a pounding. But again, really rhythmic passer like Mendoza that will do wonders in a real timing based horizontal flowing West Coast offense.
I see Jedi in the chat says Julian Sayin is the best quarterback in college football. Is that where
Rusty's an Ohio State fan, so I'll give him that much.
I gotcha. Blitzcrew. I think some fans are looking for a superstar quarterback. Others want at least a solid one. Think we will see Jelani Woods at all before season's end.
I don't know. We haven't seen Jelani Wood active. We also haven't seen Stone Smart play one offensive snap.
It's crazy. Feels very weird.
I've seen obviously we've seen the other guys. Oh man, this is a blowout right now. The Giants
they're kicking the snot out of them.
Killed. But I think that I've seen Andrew Beck play more tight end than I have Jelani Woods and Stone Smart combined.
Absolutely wild to me. To get to Blitzcrew's first part of this comment, some fans are absolutely looking for a superstar quarterback, and I think that's the boom or bust potential. Like that's what Lamar Jackson was. That's what Josh Allen was. I feel like when you look at some of the other quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, those guys were seen as higher floor guys. Even Rosen was seen as a higher floor guy in that particular draft. And this year, I definitely I think because of the boom or bust potential of Zach Wilson, the boom or bust potential of Justin Fields. Although granted, we didn't waste a draft pick on Fields. It was just the bringing him in side of things. I definitely tend to lead more on the safer side. Like I want someone who's built for New York. I want someone that can play in cold weather. I want someone that's not going to get rattled by the media. I want someone who's going to be mature. Like there's a lot more traits that I find more important than necessarily like superstar status for our particular situation. Is that a weird way to think of it, or should we just be drafting like the highest ceiling quarterback each year?
No, absolutely not. I don't think so. I think there's times where you obviously want to shoot for the stars, and you obviously want to try to get guys where that crossing mesh point is super high production and super high ceiling. But I don't think you need it. I don't. Like listen, look at. When you take, what quarterbacks in this draft, or not in this draft, but what quarterbacks in the league? Like, just think of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. Probably only Lamar Jackson is the only one I could think of, and maybe Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow was really, really special when he came out. But probably Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, did I ever really think that they had true QB1 in the NFL ceiling capabilities? Like their ceiling was like super high. All these guys were all developed outside of that, right? Josh Allen, you didn't think that his ceiling was going to be where it is now. Patrick Mahomes, you sure didn't. So you never know. You take a shot on the athleticism of Lamar Jackson, and you take a shot on just the pure arm talent and the like the gumption of Joe Burrow. And you fly with that. The rest of it's all how the guy develops, how much work they put in, where they end up. Like, we forget about that. How much it matters where they end up. You know, if Zach Wilson ended up with Sean McVay, would he be the Zach Wilson we know and come to hate? I don't think so.
Where they land is such a major thing because obviously, like, do they fit the city? Do they fit the offensive scheme? How do they handle the pressure of the various media outlets, the pressure that's put on them from the fan bases? The Jets just have a very, very tough set of, I don't want to say requirements, but like we are different than a lot of other teams. Green Bean says this a lot where it's like, I want someone that just fits us. And I feel like there's certain players, like a Shedeur Sanders as an example, like it's just one of those guys where it's like, I don't think that's going to play well here. I think, after the Rodgers stuff and him coming in, like imagine if he was doing all the stuff he's doing in Cleveland with the Jets, where he's kind of like shooting his mouth off a little bit after the, I don't know if it was the win where he's just like, oh, this is, this, that, and the other thing. Like, I don't know. I don't think that plays well in New York. I think you need someone that's a little more stoic, a little more mature. Mendoza, I feel like fits that bill. I honestly need to watch more interviews of Moore and Ty Simpson. But I've liked Simpson's, kind of body language and some of the little clips I have seen of him on the field talking with the seniors and whatnot. I don't know. I'm not sure as far as, star quarterback or at least a solid one, what the better route is. I feel like solid is where I would like to be as opposed to superstar.
And I think if you're choosing 1-1, you have to get special, right? I don't know if any of these guys are special. And I can say that honestly, like I've done the work, I've done the assessment. It's my assessment. I don't know if there's a special talent. I think there's, I think Mendoza has a chance to be a really good quarterback. I think Moore has a chance to develop into a really good quarterback, and Simpson's the wild card. I think he's good. I think he can be the best in the class, and I think he probably also has the lowest ceiling of these bigger names that we're talking about in this draft class here.
Tom, we have reached the 9:30 hour here. We're going to wrap up our show. Give me any thoughts that maybe we didn't hit on or anything you got going on that you want to let people know about.
Oh, man. Like I said, article coming out this week with Jets X Factor, what a 2026 draft could look like for the Jets if we miss out on the big three quarterback position. And the one thing, I don't know if we missed on or whatnot, but I will give you my my little PSA here is, guys, root and fan however the hell you want to root and fan. If you want to see the team win, root for them to win. If you want to see them, if you want them to lose games to get the best draft position, lose games to get the best draft position. Like, root for however you want to root for them. Just don't get on other people for thinking differently or the opposite way of you. It in the grand scheme of things, it's not all that deep.
Dom, I'm going to completely disagree with you, and I think the Twitter anger and hate, regardless of what happens to our Jets, if we lose, you got people upset about Aaron Glenn and we can't win games. If we win, well, there goes our draft stock. I feel like people just want to bitch and moan no matter what it is, and we can never do anything right. But
and I tell you this much, like this whole Mendoza or quarterback, I'll say quarterback, the whole quarterback thing is going to be something crazy because the Twitter brings out the crazy in people, man, because it goes from, the Jets aren't going to go anywhere without a quarterback, which is true. I get that. Oh, but I'm not, now they won too many games. I'm not trading up to go get one of these guys. Well, all right. Well, if you don't trade up, then you're not going to have a quarterback. So which one are you going to complain about? Which one do you want to complain about more? It's a question.
Oh, the answer is both equally at the same time all the time. And I'm here for it. I'm here for the discussion. I'm here for the conversation. Lots of ways to skin a cat. Do they want to trade assets for a veteran quarterback? Do they want to draft one at the top of the first round, back of the first round, next year in 2027? Whole lot of things we can do. I will say this, with each passing day and watching the additions that Muji has brought into this team, both through the draft and through the trades that he made in Mechie and A.D. Mitchell and Briggs and Phillips and, all that, I'm feeling more and more confident in his talent evaluation, where I'm kind of okay with whatever direction they decide to go. Now you get into 2027 and all of a sudden the quarterbacks are flying off the board and the Jets are just sitting back. We're like, oh yeah, we'll just get some guy. Like, okay, now I'll panic. But right now, as it stands, don't force the issue because you have the ammo to go up and do what you got to do in 2027. Dom, it's been a lot of fun talking with you. Chat, it's been a lot of fun talking with you as well. Hit that like button on the way out. This is Jets Talk signing off. JETS.